ready here as well. So let's get going. I think the beauty of this is that we record it and then we post it, and I know that a lot of the people in our community, they end up looking at it later on. So I think that's fine.
Cool. Well, let me just say I couldn't possibly give enough heart emojis towards you and the team and the people that you're bringing in. We have our whole company here in the room, and this has been a product and a vision that we've been working on for years at this point. And so to see someone like yourself, find the product, start to use it, and I think love it, is really, really important to us. And it means a lot also that you're willing to give your time here. I think, that can't be underappreciated. So let's give a quick round of applause again for that, everybody, please.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So I will do a brief intro myself for 10 seconds. My name's Don. I'm born in the United States, but now live in London with our team. And this company was something that we were hoping to build, John and I, back in 2018. And we've been able to sustain it and keep it going and growing until now. So enough about me. Mario, I want to focus not only on kind of how you're using our product, but I think it's really important for us as a team to just also understand, kind of who you are as a person, from a psychological standpoint, like what are the things that you love to do, and that'll help us really understand, how that story connects to our product. So do you want to maybe just, take a step back and rewind yourself to baby Mario and born and kind of, what was that like, and how did you become, so interested in business?
All right. So I probably not go as far as Baby Mario. That would be boring. But what I'm gonna try and do is to give you kind of, because I was having, we were having our Reinvention Revolution meeting, a weekly meeting yesterday, and Rene and I were talking, about Teooh and how we're using it and some of the things that are appealing about it. A little bit in preparation for this, but one of my realizations is that I'm not afraid to take chances on new things, right? And that comes from the fact that I was a Boy Scout since very, very early, and I was basically taught to go out and learn by doing. And there was a lot of reward in that. So I like a lot the whole psychological background part of marketing, because I think it really helps you zoom into your avatar. And I think in my case, one of the things, that there's this things when you're growing up, who are you trying to please? And to me, it has always been very much about my dad. I love my dad. We have an amazing relationship. And I grew up with him as being a scoutmaster in the Boy Scouts. So what ended up happening with that is that, you hear all the stories of successful people who have been, beaten up and had problems. I never had that. I'm kind of the opposite to that, right? I'm the proof that love and care actually work really well as a life-defining strategy. So I think a big part of that was the reward around when you learn by doing and you're successful with that, you get to build things and you get the freedom to explore things and even, things that other parents would not be willing to do, because one, I was very close to my dad in that respect. And the second thing, it was, I felt very successful at an early age because of that environment, right? So I think the starting point is the Boy Scouts have helped me a lot with that. The second thing is I was in an exchange student program to Thailand when I was 17, and I'm Brazilian, so early 90s, leaving Brazil to go to Thailand, it was as asymmetrical as it could get. And through that process, I learned how do you adjust and evolve into a different culture, right? And that cultural kind of backdrop being so, you have to put it into context, right? In 1994, that was the last year where commercial internet was not available. So I wrote 300 letters during that year. And to a large degree, yeah, it's funny. It's very funny. The funny thing about that is also that I spoke to my parents 3 times that year, and each one of those phone calls cost at least $150, and they have not none of them lasted more than 5 minutes. So it's also kind of understanding that entire kind of concept, because so when I came back, we bought our first, Windows 95 computer with internet and a 9.6 kbps modem in it, and then kind of the world changed right there and then, right? But up to that point, I think those two things, the Boy Scouts and the exchange student, kind of set myself in that. And the third one, and I will not talk about my career because that can be boring, but I think when I talked about my dad in relation to the Boy Scouts, there was also something else that he did from an early age that I think I'm super grateful for him, and we've talked about this in the past, which is he opened like a current account on a newsstand, right? We don't see newsstands anymore, but in the newsstands you could get anywhere from comics, magazines, Playboy magazine when you're 10, it's kind of cool. And this was some of the things that have he used to subscribe to a business magazine, right? But at the same time, I would have this current account, so I could go in and pick up any comic, anything, literally anything I wanted, right? I read my first porn magazine when I was 10 because I negotiated with the guy in the newsstand and said, my dad said anything I want. So I want this. And then when I got home, my dad was like, and maybe you should not show this to your mother. Let's keep that between the two of us, right? And obviously that month my mom went there to pay for it. And then she saw what I was buying. But I think that kind of, immersion in knowledge and business knowledge and comics and arts and everything around that, right, is super powerful as well. So it kind of creates this exploratory gene that I think I have now, and essentially is what, it brought me here to you guys, because when I read about you, I don't even remember how it was. I think it was Sampar or one of these guys. I was like, hey, we should try this, right? And I remember the first meeting, it was like 3 people. And it started growing from there because people wanted to kind of experiment a little bit with it. Sorry, it was a long answer.
No, that's perfect. And it also leads to, well, just first off, I feel similar about my parents, and I don't think you can possibly understate that. So it's really great that you had that experience. And I do think a lot of the things you touched on are kind of key components of the people that are going to be the early adopters. Number one, curiosity. That's always something that I think is going to be important for a product like ours, is, finding those people who are just kind of naturally curious. And because they're naturally curious, they're willing to experiment with things and try things that they might not fully understand, because it's more about just, them getting to that understanding than it is about immediate success. So I think curiosity is really important. It also sounds like, just based on some of your wording and also having, a computer so early on, it does sound like, you're fairly tech forward. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
I am. I must admit that I am.
Cool.
I actually, yesterday I had a meeting with a customer, and to that point, he gave me the CTO of the company gave me the following line: we need to keep our servers here because we are afraid to be hacked. And I was like, dude, if you have your servers on site, I can hack them. I can break into your network without much effort. You don't know what you're talking about. And this is the CTO of a company that is a $200 million company, right? And to me, it's not only the knowledge, but is what you do with that knowledge and how you use the knowledge to actually grow the business. So yes, I'm tech savvy, but I do it, or I have an interest because of the business side.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of the third point that it seems like was also reading between the lines there. And it doesn't sound like it's just business. It sounds like you're also business savvy, but you have some interest in the arts, and it sounds like you have kind of a horizontal understanding of the world. And I do think this product kind of inherently is creative, and so it sparks some of those feelings. And so it's cool to see that you kind of have that mix of all those key traits. I was laughing earlier because our CTO and my co-founder was giving some thumbs downs when you were talking about what they're.
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah. Do you have a question, John? It looks like you're raising your hand.
I do. Hello, Mario. CTO here. Couldn't agree more about physical premises security, but there you go. Can I ask a couple of questions related to your journey here? You sort of talked about how you discovered us. Can you remember what your first feelings were and what made us work for you? What made that very early first perspective?
So it's actually a good one because there are a couple of tools that we have a stack. So I'll take a step back, John. We have a technology stack in Reinvention because of what we do, right? So our principles are, I'm going to work in the mindset of the people I work with. I'm going to help them with their marketing because it usually sucks. And I'm going to help them with the technology, right? And usually it's about off-the-shelf technology because it's not unusual that I run into the people like I ran into yesterday that they want to rebuild the wheel, right? And they start throwing jargon around their business leaders because that's what makes them kind of valuable in that sense. So when I came across Teooh, the problem I was trying to solve, and I usually approach things from, okay, what is the problem that this tool is going to allow me to solve? For my business there's a lot of people in my line of business who are camera conscious. Okay, they're not easy on the camera. They don't like how they look, and I've been having this feeling for 2 years now. So since I left, my cozy executive job, and I started working on my own thing, and I started connecting with people. So the Zoom life has been the Zoom life for me for 2 years now. Whereas for a lot of people, it was kind of 6-month-old journey, right? So when I run into you guys, I said, okay, hang on a second. There's something in here. Because I could be Mario, right? But I could also be Mario with a blue skin and nobody would care. So, okay, that's interesting. That's interesting, number one. Then interesting number two was, hang on a second. I'm not familiar with a VR space as such, but I know that I have my kids in Roblox, like every single hour they're allowed to be on their iPads, they're in Roblox, right? And Roblox is like, I don't know if you're familiar with Roblox, but if you're not, you should be. Like my 4-year-old kid, she's in there all the time. So it's like, okay, so what I did is I brought them in, and I'll share with you later on, like my office setup is, I have a big 55-inch screen TV, right? And a camera on top. And I was testing this one day and I was like, do you like this? And they were like, that's your office in Roblox. I was like, so 15 years from now, the reference that those kids are going to have is this. Is where we are today, right? But a lot of people, they're unfamiliar with the feeling. So the problem I was trying to solve was, how can I get my camera conscious customers to come in, join me, right, in a very personal or interpersonal. I think the Joe Foster thing was simply amazing last week. I really enjoyed that because it is Joe Foster, right? It's like, fuck, he founded Reebok. And he's here talking to Rene, right? I had to live before, and I think Rene had a chance to do a 1-1 with him. And I was like, fuck, that kind of experience cannot be replicated in the real world most of the time, right? So this is kind of, John, the journey that led me into kind of saying, okay, we will use this every week for the stuff that we need to do. And granted, we have a lot of other things going on, right? We have, seminars, webinars, and all kinds of stuff that goes on, because like the Teooh meeting has become a religion for us, because it's about that consistency that I believe we need to have when we are doing something new. So we need to be consistent. We need to be able to tell people, okay, here's a place where you can come and hang out so that they know about it. And granted, I also need to feel comfortable about it, right? So from time to time, things will break, and the presentation is not going to work. I use Canva to present, right, directly, right from the screen. So yeah, sometimes it breaks, sometimes it's not working. And being here every week makes me feel, you know what? I'm comfortable. Whenever something breaks, we can continue.
That's really helpful. Thank you for that. That's really, really helpful. So for you then, it's a complementary tool in your suite of things that you've got available to you to use.
Absolutely. I do think that that's the way it should be seen, right? I think, so how would I put it? I was just, the past, on the weekend, I'm part of a thing called the Knowledge Broker community. It's Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. Nobody knows who Dean Graziosi is, even though he's worth like $500 million. And Tony Robbins, everybody knows, even though he is worth the same $500 million, but his marketing is way more powerful, right? And guess what? Dean is 20 years behind Tony in his journey. So I think that whenever Dean is 60 years old, he's going to be a multi-billionaire doing knowledge kind of transference to people, right? And we were in this event, there were 10,000 people over Zoom calls, right? And I was like, okay, so they've been able to replicate the energy, right, and the state, the peak state that you need to get into when you're learning, right? So I think this that they're doing with the large Zoom auditorium and so on is eventually where you guys are going to end up, 2 years from now, because I think the more people are comfortable with the Zoom calls and so on, the more they're going to be comfortable setting up an avatar and coming here and doing the exact same thing, right? I don't know about your product development, but I see, for example, I'm standing now, right? I'm not sitting now. I love to stand when I'm in Teooh meetings. When I'm in a Zoom call, people think it's fucking weird that I'm walking around and doing what I do, but my energy changes when I'm standing, right? So the day that I stand, my camera can track my movements, and I can stand in Teooh as well and be like myself, and I'm a lot chubbier than I look on this avatar, right? Like the moment when then that can happen, I think people will come in droves, right? They're gonna invade here, because I do think that there's a lot of stuff that people today they're getting fatigued, and the comic key element of Teooh also helps in that. So it was just to connect with, I spent 3 days in front of not only mine. I mean, we had a 120-inch screen projector set up with a 4K camera set up on top of that, so that we could participate as a group here in Mexico. I think that would be a great event to have a guy like Tony Robbins come in and facilitate something. Just saying.
That's really
sorry,
cool.
I digress, John.
No, I've got a million questions as well. Okay, off the top of my head, if we just met in an elevator and I was a stranger to Teooh, how would you quickly sell it to us? Like the elevator speech.
I would say is the closest thing to being in person without a camera.
Okay, really cool as well. Thank you for that. In terms of like selling this to people that you bring in that are strangers, what's your experience like there when you bring people in that aren't aware of how the product works?
I think the biggest hurdle, and I think René might have an opinion about that because René runs our operations, right? So a large aspect of getting people in is getting people set up, right? So I think the setup is kind of the hurdle. So we try to send messages to tell them, hey, download the tool, test the tool before, blah, blah, blah. Because many people, they're not familiar with it, right? And I really like the way you guys are doing the kind of the development with the subversions, right? 0.34, 10. For me, after a while, I'm just, I know that before I go into Teooh for a meeting, I have to be there 5 minutes before. I'll check if my version is the latest one. If not, I'm going to download it and then I'm going to use it, right? So, but it's me, right? So in our group, I have CEOs of companies, right? I have a guy who used to run the third largest consulting company in Mexico City, right? And he's 62. And he's always there, but he's always quiet. And one day I was like, Ricardo, are you having trouble with your microphone? And he was like, how do you know? I said, well, clearly because I've known you for 15 years and you say this, you're in there and not saying anything. So what's going on there? He was like, yeah, I have a little bit of trouble with my mic. And I was like, okay, can I help you solve it? No, I'm going to ask my grandson to help me. And it was like, okay, then you figure it out, right? But whenever his grandson is not around, he seems to have trouble. So I see the pattern there in that respect, right? So I think that is the first thing, is getting people to set up, then getting people to acclimate to the tool. And by acclimate, I mean sound, video. I mean, it's super simple to set it up, right? But that's for me. And usually I say that the way that I see the world, especially in tech terms, I cannot apply that for other people. So, and that leads me to the third thing. When you're in, right, and you have someone in your table when you come in, right? So there was something that the law of proximity. When you get yourself close to successful people, you're going to be successful. If people, when they come in, there's someone on the table when they come in, and they are naturally set up to talk to that person, the experience improves tenfold. And everyone I talk to, I have a company here in Mexico, and my business partner, she's always there in the Teooh meetings as well, and she's like, I think René and her are probably the people who give me the harshest feedback, which I appreciate because then I get better, right? And she was the first one to tell me, okay, you got to make sure that there's always someone in there from Reinvention when people come in, because when they come in and they talk to someone, they're gonna love this. If they come in and they're sitting there like completely stranded, like what the fuck's going on here, then it kills the experience in the first 5 seconds. So we started doing that, right? Also, like Carlos is there from the get-go, René's there like a little bit before, and sometimes I'm sitting in the green room finishing another meeting, and when I see that someone joins, I'm gonna jump in there just to say hi, right? Just to say hi, say, hey, I'm finishing another meeting, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna be with you in 2 seconds, right? So that kind of that experience curve is really important, especially for who is there and the people there in the first time. Sorry, another long answer.
No, I really appreciate hearing this. In fact, I don't want to hog all your time, but if I could just ask one more question, and then I'll let Don carry on.
So, guys, I had originally scheduled this for an hour. So, I mean, I'm here, and I love to do this.
Oh, that's great to hear as well. Okay, I suppose my question is, if we gave you the almighty magic wand and you could change one thing in the product and add something new, what would those two things be?
That's a good question. I think the ability to present video, and I know that technologically this is probably like a very complicated thing to ask, but I think the ability to stream video towards the screens would be a game changer. Why? Because you would be able, so I would be able to have my whole set of knowledge transfer over into this platform. I think it's one of the drawbacks that I have. So I could teach you like a million different things if I had the ability to stream video in there. So that's kind of the first one. And then the second one, which is more of like the futuristic way to put it, right? Is like, and I don't know if that exists or not, but the ability to just go and wear a Oculus Rift or some VR thing like that and be immersed. And that I don't know if it exists, but it's something that I think about every day, right?
Thank you for those answers as well. Yeah, that's really useful. Well, I suppose I can talk to you about video and let you know that has been a big project for us. You're right. We've been building that for many months now, and it's state of the art. Absolutely everything you want coming. You just have to be patient while we go through that alpha and betas and various things, but it will be on its way, and it'll appear for you on the horizon. We are in testing on that right now, so that's good news. And we should probably mention the history of Don and I is VR. Actually, we've come from a very strong. I've owned a VR company, had successful games. Windlands 2 was, if you recognise that, but we've come from that background, and we realise that is the future and the direction of AR as well. And I suppose we're just not focusing on that right now. There isn't a mass audience there. There isn't a mass market, but certainly from I can conceive at some point in the future that we will let those capabilities happen as the product grows. So it's exciting. I think that's good to hear and add to the numbers of people asking for it.
And I think you did the sequencing completely right. So this is more the geek in me saying, how cool would it be? But I can appreciate that. I think, there's a couple of million VR sets out there working today where there are a couple of billion computers and phones and things. So I absolutely, from a product adoption, I think you're spot on. The thing with the video, though, it's more a big challenge that I've noticed with my kids, right? I have two kids, 4 and 7, is keeping them entertained during school time, right? And I actually brought it up to the headmaster in their school. Hey, I'm using these. Why don't you check it out? And he was like, that's too difficult. That's too complicated. And then, and when I killed all the objections, he was like, hey, there's no video, right? We can't stream that. And my kids, they were like, yeah, it would be really great if we could watch some stuff in there. Because that's what they do today. The kids are watching Netflix with their friends over a FaceTime call. I mean, it's crazy, but that's kind of the behavior that I see in them. And then I transported it into some of the stuff that I do where I use video. So that's where it comes. But it's great to know that you guys are working on it.
Yeah, really, really cool. Mario, can I ask you, so one thing you mentioned was that you're in the green room doing meetings and then someone else will show up here and then you'll jump down and greet them. I think one of the things that we don't have full clarity on as a company just yet is kind of like how how are users psychologically going through the choices of the venues, um, and trying to understand kind of like, why are you choosing this one for meetings versus the boardroom or the virtual office, and just trying to really kind of understand like, what is an ideal venue for your use case, and why did you kind of come to the conclusion that you came to eventually?
Okay, it has to do with one thing, the size of the audience, right? And it's more like the hope that we can bring larger audiences into this, right? I don't know if you guys have filled this room, for example. I think the image of having a room like this filled with avatars, it's like in my head. I think the largest meeting we had was 20 plus people, but we do it consistently with those 12 to 20, right? Our goal is to get to 50 by the end of the year, right? And that is kind of how we choose it. I was having a discussion with someone else about this, and I think if I had 200 people signed up for something, I would go for the larger ones. Right, so it's merely based on the size of the audience that I have for something, because I think regardless of the audience, with what we have today, you could do amazing transfer of knowledge from people in the audience versus being on the stage.
It's so funny because we're going through a conversation right now where we're thinking of making the venue size much smaller, because it appears that most people are doing like smaller group meetings rather than like the bigger events. So it's really fascinating to hear you say something like that.
Can I give? I think it has to do, and another point that we were discussing yesterday. It is, if you have 50 people who are familiar with the tool, they're going to come and they're going to join. If you have 200, they're going to come, they're going to join. A year ago, it would be impossible to think of a virtual event for 1,000 people, right? There were some people doing it, Russell Branson in the U.S., and but it was not common, right? And a few months ago, Tony threw a UPW with 23,000 people, and it got me thinking, right? And in this board meeting that we just had right now, a big part of their pipeline to get customers is to bring customers into like breakfasts. And I said, okay, why are you talking about a breakfast per month when we should be talking a breakfast per day? And I think the same rule applies here, Don. I think it is, how do we make enough people familiar with the tool so that they're comfortable joining a big event? And I think the fact that for now it's like open and you can come and do your thing and invite people, that is super powerful, right? Because it replaces a lot of other tools with a much more human connection, if you will. So the way I look at this is, I think it's more a marketing problem than a tech problem, if you ask me. I don't know, just my 2 cents on it. And a marketing problem for me as well, right? Because I want to be able to bring more people into here, because I do think that what we're doing is super valuable for them, right? So I think it's more in that sense.
Yeah, that's something that I think is becoming more apparent to us, is that kind of at this point in our company, we're really kind of in the business of building confidence with users and just kind of getting them in here. And so it's interesting for us to try to understand and discover like what is that threshold where, people feel confident, and then how do we, build the product so that we're getting as many people to that threshold as is possible.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think the objection handling here. So usually you have this objections, time, money, the environment around you, fear and shame, right? This is usually the kind of the 5 levels that you have an objection handling at large. I think here you don't have an issue with time, you don't have an issue with money, you don't have an issue with the environment because, I mean, the beauty of this is you can be on your phone and still be here, but you do have the fear of awkwardness, right? And obviously shame because if you're not able to handle the tech. So it goes back to the setup and then how that process could be made easier. Or, one of the things that I've been playing around in my mind is getting testimonies, people recorded inside a Teooh room that would be essentially shared with other people, just allowing them to see, okay, there's people in there, right? And it's actually easy. But that's kind of something I have in the back of my mind now that we're kind of resetting to get ready for 2021. So, yeah.
So, Mario, can I just clarify your thoughts there? I think what you described there is your journey, but other people's journey through growth of people in a room. So essentially, like Don says, that once you trust the product, you start inviting more and more people in, and then there's a need for the bigger rooms. But your journey was starting off small, getting some confidence, and then testing the bigger rooms and going that journey. And do you think that's a pattern we'll see?
Yeah. So yes and no, because if my audience was ready, if I had 200 people willing to come here every week with me, I know the tech, right? I think it's more how do I get, on an audience of a couple of thousand that we have, depending on the approach that we take, Instagram pipelines, Facebook pipelines, LinkedIn pipelines. So we have all these pipelines that basically converge into the same place, if you will. For example, we did not use any LinkedIn or Facebook for this particular meeting, but we did use our email, right? And I got feedback from a former board member of mine when I was CEO of a company. He's 74, and he was like, it's so exciting, right? But he's not here today. And the one thing that I usually do is I go back when people say, I would love to be there, but they're not. Hey, what happened? And I try to figure out, what is the thing that prevented them from being inside. So, and most of the time they say, hey, I didn't have the time, I had another meeting, blah, 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 or the topic was not interesting for me, right? Which is fine as well. So it's less to do with the tech, I think, to begin with. To begin with is more the tech. When the audience is kind of warmed up to this, then it's more to do with the content than anything else. At least that's how I see it, right? And the last point is, so our ability in this, by our, I mean Reinvention Revolution's ability to position the tool, so the platform, as a differentiator for what we do. We're working on this as well. Like we have a whole, the Teooh meetings for us, even though they're free for our audience, they're a product as well for us. We look at it as a product because we add value to people. So when we do our value analysis on the things that we're doing, we run those same value analysis on the Teooh meetings that we have, and we try to sharpen the message a little bit. Our audience is growing, it's just not growing fast enough. So one of the things that Carlos, he's on the back of the room, today, and he's also recording this, yeah, he's saying hi. He beats me up, he runs our marketing, and he says, we need to generate more content. And then the next thing that he says, we need to promote more content. And this is also the next step, right? So one of the things we're going to do a few tests with populations in different platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, and so on, to see what would it take for us to attract traffic in here, right? And then try to understand how that works. So far, it's been organic, all organic. Does
So
that answer the
Jenny just
question?
joined us. Yeah, absolutely. I think it also sparked one. So Jenny just joined us up here on stage. She's our senior product manager and really the person who's responsible for, taking all of your desires and insights and then, making a better product as a result of that. So Jenny, did you have a question you wanted to ask? Also, if you could introduce yourself, that'd be fantastic, Jenny. You on mute? All right. Well, Jenny, if you can write it in the comment box, I'll read it. It sounds like for some reason the microphone might not be working. Cool. All right. Well, I have a question as well, Mario. So, are you using the product then weekly? It sounds like, or kind of when you mentioned that this is a religion for you. What is the frequency of attending our virtual church?
Weekly, it's 9 o'clock Mexico time or 10 o'clock in the morning New York time, and we usually go between 30 minutes to an hour. I try not to go over an hour because it complicates things for the audience, but we do that. We have talked about changing the time to try and capture more people, but this seems to be the sweet spot if we want to do Australia, New Zealand, and then US, Canada, Americas, and then it's kind of 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in Europe. So that is usually what I think. If I'm gonna do one event on a week, and I want to bring people, who are part of our audience, I want to make sure that they're able to be there live. Um, it was funny because during the pandemic, a lot of people, they were sitting home, and now that kind of the doors are open, there's a lot of people with meetings and other responsibilities and they're not able to join the meetings or our meetings, if you will. So, but to a large, that's how also why we started recording the meetings, because I think Carlos had this brilliant idea. Okay, let's record the meeting and then let's make it available for people for free, also in our YouTube channel and in Vimeo and so on, because that is something that will bring their attention, right? So it's every week, 9 o'clock in the morning Mexico time. I think London time, I think it's 4 o'clock Copenhagen, because we have some people in Copenhagen, and 3 p.m. I think London. I think that's how it's distributed. But we're always there. We have an event. We can send you guys a link if you want to come in and join. It's a polymath event. So we usually talk about mindset, marketing, and technology in different aspects. So we help people kind of use those elements to start reinventing themselves.
And on that point, and then also integrating Jenny's question into this here. So are you, when you're doing those weekly meetings, are there things that you feel like, whether it's maybe just like the design of the venue, where the chairs are, like the colors, do you want to be on a beachfront, things like that? Are there things that come up in your head that you feel like could be improved around the venue, that would also kind of enhance and also, fit the general ethos of the content that you're presenting?
Yeah, so feedback, and I got this from a couple of people in the early days, right? Because I thought, would it be cool if I could have like a poolside event or something like that? But then I asked the question around, and some people, they are actually distracted by the fact that they're inside Teooh, right? So I would say that I actually like this setup because it's psychologically it makes you feel like you are in a business venue of some sort, like an artistic venue of some sort, but like not too far off, right? So if you ask me, should we have a beachside thing? If someone is willing to pay you $10 million for you to develop and design and all that, then go for it. But the reality is, I like this. I think this setup is great. One of the things that I would do that I think it might, and just because of how we are wired, how humans are wired, I would have, for example, like a venue that allows me to stand while I'm talking, right? And why is that? So your whole physiology when you're like on a stage, it's a lot more powerful for you to stand up and talk, right? If you put your arms like on your waist, that's going to change your physiology. And people react to that as well. So if I could have like this very same setup, but instead of the chairs, that I could just, I know I'm going to be alone there for 30 minutes, right? If I could stand and people, I also noticed that people, they kind of adjust their view to pay attention to me speaking or whoever's on stage speaking. We had an interview series a few weeks ago, and a lot of the people who were interviewed, they brought in, family and friends to join and check it out. And it was very evident that depending on where people were sitting, they were either part of the family, hence they were looking at me, and if they were sitting opposite the to that other crowd, they were from the guest side, if you will, right? So I think that the combination of those things, to me, it indicates that, if you could have like a stand talking person in one of the rooms, that would actually be cool, and it would yield different results in a way, right? But that's just me being geeky again.
And is this the specific venue that you're using every week? This exact one here?
I think so, isn't it, Rene? I think it is. I think we're
Yes, it
we're in this
is.
very same room. Yeah, it is. It is the same. I think we tried the smaller venues, but what I like about this is that I can also take some people. For example, last week we had a discussion like breakouts, and then we took some people out to the networking place, and we got some stuff like conversations going outside. But I think this is the venue that we are.
Yeah, that was kind of the next question there. So one of the things we've been doing is I've been inviting people up on stage as they've asked questions or, any sort of kind of purpose to go around the room. But do you offer public mic access or
Yeah.
how do you kind of engage with the audience?
So I started realizing that by inviting people in, that was like more powerful. And like in the beginning, I was just opening the public mic for them to speak, right? It was not so much an exercise of kind of bring them in, and I was out, and it was sheer ignorance on my side. When I realized I could do that, I started bringing people in, and again, it's really cool when people see themselves on stage with you. So I think that's a great way of doing it.
Very cool. Renee, do you have anything to say as well?
No, no. So I agree with Mario, and I really think that it changes like you being on stage changes also the way you feel or the way you interact. So I really like this feature and this venue.
Awesome. This is really, really insightful. Okay, so last question, then we're going to wrap it up and do a massive clap for you both. So this is from Jen. What is the most exciting part for you and for your attendees when you're using Teooh?
Yeah, for me, what I like the most is the like how close you can get, right? And I think the avatars do a great job in connecting people, right? I really like that that people connection. That excites me a lot, and you know, I used to run a very big business with a lot of people, but the way I thrive is when I can have like a conversation with someone, right? When I can share, when I can learn. These are the traits of like the way I like to spend my time. And in a way, Teooh allows me to do just that, right? But I am actually right now standing up and on my, you know, my PJ pants, and I love that, right? I think this is amazing. So the whole excitement around that is that we can have like this conversation, very, you know, professional if that's what we want, very close if that's what we want, but we are encapsulated in the real world. So that's I think it's super exciting. Rene?
Yeah, more on the same, Mario. Like, well, I think it fits the. It's perfect that it came in the right moment, right? Because we were using, as Mario said, a lot of Zoom meetings, and then when we found out this tool, it was like the perfect match because the new normal and the way we are used to do things, that it's always like remotely and conference calls. I think it's perfect, and the feature of you being able to present our presentations, because we invest a lot of time and effort to make them the more creative that we can. Being able to share that in this tool, it's like really, really cool. I really love this.
And is there anything that we could do to make it so that you would not use Zoom? Like, is there anything, or do you think it'll kind of always be a complementary tool to what we're building here?
I'll start with this because there's something that occurred to me. So I think there's always going to be it's always going to be complementary, right? And by always, I mean within the foreseeable future, it's going to be complementary. I think one of the things that I think could accelerate usage, right, is if some of the scheduling integrations that Zoom has, they would be available for Teooh as well. So that's kind of more a connection to the outside world. Yeah, I think Rene and I have been talking about this. So we do a lot of automation in our business. It's a little bit crazy, but we have, so right now, if I'm not mistaken, we are running four companies from so Reinvention and other three companies, right? And I think it's pretty much Carlos, Rene, and I doing that. And then there is some people in the other companies, but kind of the core team is us and perhaps Andrea, who's also part of the Reinvention family. But like the more automation we can do in this, the easier it would be for us to simply like schedule and go, right? I think, so for example, we were talking about the sequence of emails that we have for the Teooh meetings. We changed that yesterday, right? So because we share with the Teooh population whenever they have not seen or participated in the meetings, then we share their videos, we share the presentations, and then we send reminders. And we were like, yeah, we have to send a reminder a couple of minutes before the meeting so that people even if stuff is in their calendars, right? That they're able to connect to what we're doing, right? And I'll just give you like one very simple example. MailChimp screwed up the timing for for the emails that were sent today, right? And I'm saying MailChimp because I should probably say me, because I was the one playing around with that last night, right? So and it said 2 hours, right? And it arrived 15 minutes before the meeting, and I can see Ricardo just joined now. He's part of the Reinvention family, and I like if all that was integrated or integratable, like through Zapier or any of these tools, it would make our lives much easier in bringing people in, right? It would. I think that would be like the way to go. Rene?
No, I totally agree with you, Mario. I was gonna say exactly that.
I have one for.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go for it.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Don.
No. You first, please.
No, it's just because we had our meeting yesterday, right? And that meeting, we ran that meeting in Zoom. And I was thinking about that just now, right? So what would it take for us to be able to run that meeting in Teooh, right? And it's not a lot actually, because we're just used to that. And the one thing that we talked about yesterday was this scheduling ability, right? So that it sits on our schedules, is integrated, and with links and so on, and then we can just go ahead and take the meeting when the time comes.
That's amazing. So we're going to wrap up. We want to be very conscious of your time. Quick question to both of you. Renee, maybe you could start here. How personal is the avatar to yourself, and do you find yourself, changing clothing and customizing things?
All the time. It's super personal to me because I really find like a lot of features so I can make it to look a lot like me, but I'm always changing. Like the thing that I change the most is the hair because I don't like to change the clothes. It's personally, but I'm always playing with my hair, and it's funny because I was on the event with Reebok in the Reebok event, and I was with Joe Foster, and he was like complimenting my green hair and my yellow beard, and it was super cool and fun. So yeah, it's I do that all the time.
I must admit that in my case, what you see in the avatar is very close to what you see in real life. The only exception I think would be I'm like 25 kilos fatter than what you see me on screen. But yeah, you need to fix that, guys. No, actually, the only change I made was a few weeks ago. I had a pretty long hair during the pandemic, and ponytail and so on. And then when I one day I just got tired of it. I went and got a haircut. And then my daughters were watching one of our videos, and they were harassing me because they were like, you got a haircut in real life. You need to get a haircut in there as well. And I was like, yeah, sure, I will. And then I changed my hair to green, and I made it short. But that was it, right? So, but I love it. I think it's super cool.
That's amazing. Well, thank you both so much for joining us. I think Paris is in the audience, who's my co-pilot for kind of everything I do. So we'd love to, at the very least, just I think offer to buy everybody in the company some sort of lunch, and we can figure that out through Deliveroo or however Paris wants to do that. So I'll have her reach out to you. But we're so thankful for this. I can't even tell you. And let's please everybody give a big round of applause because this is invaluable.
Thank you so much, Don, and team to putting this together. I think I cannot be appreciative enough that something like this is available. right now it's still available for free. I think that's super powerful in a time when people need both connection, but also they need to get acquainted with technology that is changing their world, right? So I'm very thankful for all the work you put into it. If there's anything we can help to promote, if you want to come and join, we'll make sure that Paris has the link for our event, even though I'm pretty sure you can figure it out yourselves. But you know, I'm super thankful because the reality is that the world today needs tools like this to make people get closer virtually because of all the social distancing that has been going on. So thank you so much, everyone. You're doing a great job here, and I cannot wait to see what you guys are going to come up with in the next, months and years. Thank you.
Absolutely.
guys.
Thank you so much. Woo! Amazing. All right, I don't want to leave, but I'm gonna jump into my next meeting. But this was just thank you so much to you both and to the whole team for joining it. It really means a lot.
Thank you, guys. I'll see you soon.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Woo!